All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Friday. Happy Friday to everyone out there. It is August 16th. We have a 14-game MLB slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, we're going to go through each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my lean on the side. I'll give you my lean on the total. Talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, all of my final plays, if you do want to fade me, all of my final plays that I'm rolling with myself will be listed in the pinned comment. In terms of yesterday, we're bringing out the money gun, baby. We going sweep. Let's go. 4-0 night. Let it rain. We had the Dodgers team total over 3.5. We had their first 5 team total over 2.5 for plus 120. We had the Phillies team total over 4.5, and then the Twins money line. Now, I will say we didn't even have a full unit play on the board, so it wasn't that big of a night. But when we can celebrate 4 check marks and 0 X's on any night, let's go ahead and take it. And guess what? The good vibes do not stop there. Our ride of the day from Keith also comes through. We had Bryce Harper over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. That cashed early, and then he doubled up on it. I think he had 2 runs, 2 hits, if I'm not mistaken, but pretty sure 4 hits, runs, and RBIs. So another little cha-ching there. Shout out to Keith. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it is simple. All you have to do is use that hashtag ride of the day in the comments. I jump on board with one person's pick. Whichever comment gets the most likes down in the comments. And then if you win, you get a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you win, we continue to ride with you. So we're going to ride with Keith again today. If you lose, you got to face the womp womp. We got to talk about it. You got to face the music, but it's all fun and good there. But shout out to Keith for a nice little cash there. That kind of correlated to our Phillies over 4.5 as well. So you know what? We're bringing some damn good vibes heading into Friday here. We had an 0-4 night on, what was that, on Tuesday. Then we go 4-1 on Thursday, and I'm like, all right, we got it back. Let's go. And then we go 4-0 on Wednesday. 4-1 on Wednesday. Then we go 4-0 on Thursday. So you know what? We're feeling pretty damn good there. But let's go ahead and jump into today's slate. Actually, first, before we do that, I do have an announcement to make, so listen up here. We do have our NFL Survivor Contest now live. $10 entry fee with a payment to first place, up to $3,000 there. I think $2,700, something like that in prizes. So go and check it out. That'll be the first link in the pinned comment, guys. $10 to enter. If you don't know what a Survivor Contest is, you pick one team each week to win in the NFL. And if you lose, unfortunately, you're out. If you win, you advance to the next week. The catch is you can't pick the same team twice in the season. So if you took the Ravens week 1, right? And they win. Yes, you advance, but you can't pick the Ravens for the rest of the year. So go ahead and check it out. I'm really, really excited about this. We'll definitely be talking about it as we make NFL content on the channel. So join that Survivor Contest. Again, that link is in the pinned comment. $10 entry fee. We did a poll. You guys voted on that. I like it. So go ahead and check that out. But now, let's talk some baseball. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Buckle up. Let's rock and roll. We got the Cubs taking on Toronto here. So Toronto's coming off of what you'd say is a pretty good run here, right? They've won 6 of their last 4, but they won 5 of their 6 of their last 10, but they've won 5 of their last 7. The Cubs, on the other hand, kind of middling. They just got swept by Cleveland. Maybe not in the best spot here. They do have Kyle Hendricks on the mound, who has been a little bit better at home than he has on the road this season. His home numbers 1.48 WHIP with a 4.45 FIP. An expected FIP though drops a little bit to 4, but a batting average against of 294. So you don't like to see that. Yariel Rodriguez on the mound for Toronto. He's definitely had his ups and downs this season, but honestly, his last couple starts, he's been pretty damn good. And one of those starts was, I don't think it was the most recent. The second most recent start was against the Yankees, right, where 0 earned runs through nearly 5 innings. So maybe this is a decent spot to get some value on Toronto here. They're about even odds, but to me, the way this line comes in, based on how Chicago's playing, based on the fact that the Blue Jays may even have the pitching advantage here and the offensive advantage, the fact that Chicago are opened up here as favorites makes me question it a little bit. So, you know what? I do think we have a little bit of a trap spot here for Toronto. So if you like Toronto, I do think a lot of the data and a lot of the points point towards it. But when you're sports betting, it's important to look at the line, the live movement, where it opens up as, and kind of sniff out some of these spots and be able to read that line. And because that is minus 115, I lean towards Chicago. Now, I will also say that type of craziness and, ping-ponging of my brain helps me stay away from a game like this. But if I had to bet this one, I'd probably go with Chicago just based on where these odds came out. In terms of the total, it's sitting at 10. I feel like that's a little bit too high, but that obviously means it's probably going to be pretty windy over in Wrigley, so I'll still lean towards the under. But again, when Chicago's at home and you see a double-digit number like that, it usually means there's some winds blowing out. I just don't have that data right now. Meteorologist Ev is not awake yet. He still needs a coffee, and then maybe by game 2, he's got that data. All right, Detroit taking on the Yankees. I don't think we have an official starter for Detroit just yet. I've seen Brant Hunter listed here, and then Garrett Cole looks like he is going to be getting the start for New York. He really hasn't been like all that Mr. Consistent. He has looked okay and really good at times. And again, this is Garrett Cole. I think that's important to remember as well. But in this spot, depending on what these odds come out at, right now I've seen the minus 190, I think, for the Yankees. That's a little bit too much for me, but if it is going to be, Brant Hunter on the mound, like I don't see a reason why the Yankees can't hit him fairly well. So I think that I lean towards Yankees team total over, but it's pretty important to realize who is going to be pitching, because even with him being a lefty, I still think the Yankees kind of have it in their bag to be able to go out there and score on him. But what if all of a sudden, a better pitcher or some other type of pitcher steps up? So before you go and get the value on that, either, take their team total over, and if you can, I don't think you can do listed pitchers with team totals over, but maybe that's the case because I am kind of targeting someone that I don't think is all that tremendous, right? But to me, I want a pitcher before I look at any of this, because in reality, this is a huge favorite in the Yankees, and you already don't have the value, and now you throw a bunch of question marks into play. You're probably just playing with your money at that point instead of doing something educated with it. And you have a guy that's pitched against them, or not against them, but has pitched now, 2 starts this season or 2 times this season. I don't even know if Brant Hunter started, so there's another reason to kind of keep an eye on that. I know it's all confusing, but honestly, if I were to give us a thesis and a summary on that, wait to see who's pitching for Detroit and then see what the odds are, because they're already pretty shot for the Yankees, so you don't need to race the window to do it. In terms of the total, like I said, I feel like I could go Yankees team total over regardless of who's pitching, but I'll still wait it out, and I want to see what price we can get it at. So this is kind of like a hold-on game right now, but either way, it's not the most sexy game in the first place with the odds that we have as of right now. All right, we got Cincinnati taking on Kansas City. Nick Martinez on the mound for Cincinnati, going up against Michael Lorenzen. Nick Martinez, through his last couple starts, has looked really good. Now, one of those was against Miami, okay, but the other one is against Milwaukee, and that was his last start. Milwaukee, an offense that's kind of coming into form, right? So to me, I look at this and I say, okay, big time spot for Nick Martinez. Is he going to regress, or is he going to continue how good he's been? He's going up against a Kansas City lineup that's definitely good against righties. Last 30 days, 295 average, 125 WRC plus, OPS of 823, and a slugging of 479. So that worries me a little bit. But Michael Lorenzen is on the other side here, and that's a guy that doesn't make me question whether or not an offense is going to have a good day or not in the first place. So to me, you're getting this home team right now that's killing it. Like, what has Kansas City won 5 straight or 4 straight, something like that, right? 7 of their last 10. Going up against a Kansas City team that just avoided a sweep against Minnesota. Maybe Cincinnati has a little bit of momentum. I think they might have the better pitcher on the mound, potentially an offense and that's hotter, even though it's kind of crazy to say because Kansas City was just on a stretch. The only thing that worries me here is taking a peek at minus 142. Like, I said it game 3 and we ended up betting it, right? Kansas City against Minnesota. It's like they're still a good team. You can get them for that big of a price tag. You might want to swing the bat. So I do lean towards Cincinnati. I think they have the better pitcher, and I think they are the hotter team right now, and they're at home. But I can totally see someone's side to taking Kansas City on a little bit of a flyer. I don't think Kansas City is in the best spot as of right now. Now, I do think that an over could be worth considering here, right? They're in Great American Ballpark. Should be decent weather today as well. Meteorologist Ev slightly reporting for duty. And like I said, Lorenzen's on the mound. And then even Nick Martinez, I just said, is he going to regress? Is he going to keep it going? If he doesn't keep it going, then I could see, a 6-4, a double-digit game in general here. So I do think that I lean towards the over. I don't mind a first 5 over either. You kind of take Cincinnati's bullpen out of the equation, which I don't think is all that bad of a move there. So give me Cincinnati on the money line as well as the over. I do just struggle with that price, but if we can get a better price, like I've already seen it move from minus 142 to minus 140, like if we can get a better deal for Cincinnati, I do think that taking that home team, playing some good baseball in a spot in which they should be able to put up some runs against a bad pitcher, could be a decent look. All right, real quick, guys, Underdog Fantasy. If you're not over there, you are missing out. It's quickly becoming one of my favorite player prop apps out there. Right now, if you sign up using the link in the pinned comment, you're going to get a free square. They have a ton of discounts already live on the site for upcoming football and that type of thing. So a free square, some discounted squares, and you're going to get a first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus plays. So go ahead and check that out, guys. Link in the pinned comment. We've been posting a bunch of these on TikTok and on Instagram as well. And we've done a couple during these videos towards the end as well, because I've been loving Underdog. We've already hit 2 6 for 6. We've only been on Underdog like, a month and a half now. Been partnering with them for, I would say, 3.5 weeks, right? And we've already hit 2 6 for 6 25x slips. So I've been loving it. I've been spoiled over there, obviously. You guys might be able to be too. Go ahead and check it out. A lot of value. Check it out. Underdog. That link is in the pinned comment. You can sign up using code GUYBOSTON as well, but that link's going to do it all for you. Go ahead and check it out. All right, let's move on to the rest of these games. Philadelphia taking on Washington. Obviously, we loved Philadelphia yesterday, and that worked out. We had their over 4.5 as a team total. They end up scoring 1 million runs, right? Which is definitely good to see. They went up against Mitchell Parker, who was a lefty, and now they're getting to take on Patrick Corbin, who is a lefty and arguably a worse lefty as well. So I think we might run back exactly what we did yesterday in terms of a team total. Now, what I will say is that the Phillies have been a little shaky, right? And if you look at their just overall numbers, it's like, yeah, their offense is taking a decline. And I kind of went on the spiel yesterday, but that is predominantly against righties. They are still crushing lefties. Last 30 days here, first in average, first in WRC plus, first in on base, first in OPS, second in ISO, and first in slugging. So to me, I love the fact that we could still get them, with decent odds for over 4.5. Right now, over 4.5 is -155. In my opinion, that's decent, because I expect by the time we look at this in the afternoon, so we might want to jump in this early, we're probably going to be looking at like -170, -180. So if I can't get there in time, I'm going to be bummed out, because we're seeing this early in the morning. But either way, I still do think it could be a spot that you can kind of mess with maybe in a parlay, like Philly money line and their team total for same game parlay, something like that to make it work. If you did want to go down that road, if it gets priced out. But if you can jump on this early enough and it's below -160, I honestly don't think that that's a bad move. In terms of I think the Philly wins this game, but Aaron Nola on the mound going up against Patrick Corbin with a great offense behind him makes a lot of sense, right? But -278, a little bit too pricey. That's why I'm trying to finagle it with the team total here. In terms of the total, I do still think that I would not expect Washington to contribute to this. Like yesterday, 13-3. Washington didn't do their part of their total of 8, right? Philly did. So I think that'd be the same thing. Like I said, team total over for Philly. I wouldn't go 5.5. That's where we get a little carried away. I know they've scored 9 and 13 in their last 2 games, but 5.5 seems like you're asking a lot of a team to go out there and score 6 runs, even though it's 1 run. So if you can't get a good price at 4.5, I would say maybe do a same game parlay of Philly money line and the team total over 3.5, something to get you some good odds. We might do that as well. All right, Pittsburgh taking on Seattle. This should be obviously a good one. We have Logan Gilbert on the bump for Seattle going up against Pittsburgh's Paul Skeens. So very excited for this one. I think a lot of people are going to be all over the under, all over the nerfy, and all that makes sense. I'm just a little scared to touch it if everybody's going to be on it here. But how can you not, right? This is probably a spot in which I like going to my little trick of the trade, right? Would be going to the first 5 under. You can usually get better odds, and it's 4.5. So in terms of right now, under 4.5 in the first 5 is, it's really, really juiced. -200 already. So there we go. Even something that we usually are able to spin, we don't have the right odds for. So this would be a full game under for me, if anything. Neither offense is good. Both pitchers are really good. Bullpens can be inconsistent, but Seattle's been pretty good. So yeah, that's probably the only thing that I'd play here. I think that it's kind of silly to take either one of these offenses and say, hey, they're going to go out there and, hit up Skeens or hit up Gilbert. It's almost like a crapshoot in a sense. Like when you look at these guys' numbers home and away, it doesn't even matter. Both these guys are absolute studs right now. If I had to pick, which, luckily I run the show, I don't necessarily have to, but I will give you a lean here. I wouldn't be so, against considering Seattle for +110. This Pittsburgh team has been awful. They've lost, at least 10 games in a row, right? Seattle hasn't been all that much better. They got swept by Detroit, but you got to come out of that feeling a little fired up, right? Whereas Pittsburgh's just kind of in the norm now. In Pittsburgh's defense, Arizona, San Diego, Dodgers, San Diego. They've played some hot offenses, and they're not a hot offense, so it's tough to keep up with. But for plus money, I think that if this is just a pitching duel, then you know what? Give me the plus money team, but I don't mind that under either. Overall, though, I think both these guys could have good games. Like, neither one of these offenses is all that scary whatsoever. They both throw a bunch of fastballs. Both teams middle of the pack in terms of fastball. Gilbert's going to throw a bunch of sliders. Pittsburgh 25th in runs above average last 30 days against the slider. Skeens throws a sinker. Seattle, that's the second pitch, 28th in runs above average against the sinker. It's like, I don't think that either offense is going to have the easiest of times batting this. And in the small plate appearances against, it looks pretty good as well. So Gilbert, 30 plate appearances against, 167 average against, and then Skeens only three plate appearances here against current guys on this roster. So that's more trade deadline stuff. So doesn't even have a sample size there. So give me the under as well as Seattle, but I wouldn't mind thinking either one of these guys is going to have like a decent day. So maybe some pitcher player props. All right, Tampa Bay taking on Arizona. And by the way, I do know and understand. I can already see the comments being like, I feel like a few of these games you've been wishy-washy on. And yeah, we loved what we saw yesterday. Obviously, 4-0. It's coming back down to earth now and looking at all these new series and new matchups. And sometimes it takes a little while to get your little toes in the water. You know what I mean? So yeah, we don't have so far, I guess, in this video, anything that's absolute locks. I love Philly's team total over, but I think we're going to lose value on that by the time we're done recording. But either way, there'll be some plays. So keep an eye on the pinned comment. All right. Tampa Bay taking on Arizona here. Ryan Pepe Le Pew Pepois on the mound for Tampa Bay, going up against Ryan Nelson for Arizona. Now, I do not like Ryan Nelson. I've said that many times before. Sure, he's had some good spots and had some good starts as well. But the only thing that really, gets my interest going here would be considering another Arizona team total over. Right now, over 3.5 for -130. Do they really necessarily match up well against Pepois? I mean, it's Arizona, right? They're batting well, so that's how I'd kind of say it. He's had decent success against them. Small sample size, 33 plate appearances against the current guys on the roster, 138 average against, and an expected WOBA of 191, and an expected slugging of 157. So it worries me a little bit, but again, you're getting an Arizona team that has been scoring a bunch of runs, and we're looking at over 3.5. They've hit that 9 of their last 10 games, and it's for -130. It's kind of juiced a little bit, but you want to go over 4.5 or +140. Send it, you know what I mean? So I think that's the way that I'd play it. I don't mind Arizona on the money line. I just don't think that they have the true pitching advantage here. But for -105, they definitely have the better offense. So for near even odds, I don't mind a peek at Arizona on the money line. In terms of a total, I'm not necessarily sure the Rays offense is going to get going. I tell you guys all the time, I really don't consider their offense viable unless they're against a lefty. Well, Ryan Nelson, I'm not a big fan of, but he does pitch from the right side. So in terms of playing this total, I'd only really look at Arizona team total over instead of expecting Tampa Bay to contribute. Will they contribute? Potentially, but if Arizona goes out there and just does their part, we can cash in over here as well. So there's a play for you, all right? Arizona team total over 3.5 for -130, -125 right now, actually, too. All right, we got Baltimore taking on Boston. Corbin Burns on the bump here for Baltimore, taking on Cooper Criswell, who is just coming off of getting the vid, right? So this is obviously a pitching advantage regardless of sickness for Baltimore. Their offensive advantage, you can make the argument it's there too as well. I mean, look at yesterday's game, 5-1, right? And we kind of thought that would happen, that this would be a non-Boston offensive night, and it wasn't. And I think it'd be kind of silly to think that they're going to go out there and, go crazy against Burns. Again, 60 plate appearances against this roster, 0.93 average against, a 167 expected batting average against, an expected WOBA of 205, and an actual WOBA of 120. So it's like Corbin Burns is probably going to have a decent day against Boston. This one's sitting at 8.5. I might take a peek at Boston's team total under, just because they're so good against righties. Like yesterday, if you were to take the under in their team total, it would have been a decent spot, you know what I mean? And they scored 1 run. So if we can look into that and get good odds potentially, I do have a feeling, we don't have those odds in our notes here, but I do have a feeling Corbin Burns is going to bring those odds down, and it's probably going to already shoot it. But to me, this is a Baltimore spot, and a maybe just fade the Red Sox offense spot a little bit. Now, that being said, this is a Red Sox offense that, if it's a right-handed pitcher, which Burns is, you can never really count them out. But to me, it's after that Texas series. Again, 2 out of their 3 games against Texas went into extra innings. They scored a bunch of runs in those, and then all of a sudden, we come into Baltimore and score 1 yesterday. Like, that's not that shocking to me. You play a bad Texas team or a mediocre Texas team, then come into Baltimore, who is gunning for the number 1 seed in the AL East. So it makes a little bit of sense why Baltimore probably wants us a little bit more. And you know what? Not to say they have an older team, but they do have a better team as of right now. Both teams super young. In terms of the total, I'd still lean probably full game under because you're trusting Corbin Burns. Even yesterday, like, Baltimore got to Pavetta, and it was a 5-1 game, right? Still under the total. All right, Mets taking on Miami. This is one where it's hard to have like a good, strong, interesting take on, right? Because you have Miami, who isn't all that tremendous. They did take one against Philly. Give them a little bit of credit there, right? But the Mets, you don't really know what they're doing right now. Like, they're scoring a decent amount of runs, but only in their last series. Before that, it was dormant, and they lost 2 of 3 against Oakland. And now you have a minus 230 and beyond money line tag on them. So there is a pitching discrepancy, all right? Frankie Muniz on the mound for Miami. Sean Manaea on the mound for the Mets. Sean Manaea's looked okay at home. 2 flat ERA over his last 5, and that's including a game against Miami in which he did not pitch all that well. So do we consider that, or does he get them back? I still think this is probably a Mets spot, but that's not saying a lot based on those odds. I just have a tough time believing in Miami and anything like that. So maybe the way that we end up playing this is saying Miami team total under. Sean Manaea go out there and do a little bit better than he did last time, and if we can get their team total under, then things could look good, and we don't have to worry about the Mets contributing offensively. Because honestly, this Mets team, you're a psycho if you can predict what they're going to do, right? They went out there and scored 1 run in their 3 games against Seattle, and then they go out there and score a decent amount of runs, but lose against the A's. Like, this Mets team's kind of all over the place. I know we all love the grimace and the run they went on, but they're still a damn confusing team, and they're only 3 games above 500 in terms of their win-loss for that reason, right? So give me Miami's team total under. That kind of is a way to say, let's bet the Mets, but we're also not we're not like banking on their offense, right? So I like the full game under technically as well, but I think Miami's team total under may be the move. All right, Texas taking on Minnesota. I said in yesterday's video, I was like, I can't see why these odds are pretty much a pick 'em and blah, blah, blah. Well, turns out this was a pretty damn close game. Now, we cashed it and it completed the sweep, right? But it took the top of the 9th for Minnesota to end up scoring a run to break the tie. So, yeah, I mean, we were right about who wins the game, but I thought this was a slam dunk play for Minnesota yesterday, and that was like a dunk in which the ball just gets over the rim and you almost get stuffed by the rim, but you don't, that type of thing. At least that's how I picture it. Today we have Simeon Woods-Richardson on the mound for the Twins going up against Andrew Heaney, who is a lefty. I do worry a little bit about Minnesota against lefties, but like I've said before, it's like they're still a good offense, but I honestly kind of got skewed yesterday saying that, and then all of a sudden they score 3 runs. I was like, yeah, maybe you got to pump the brakes on the idea that just because they're a lefty, it's not going to matter all that much. It did matter, you know what I mean? Like, this is an offense that was cruising. They faced a lefty yesterday and all of a sudden slow down. So I give a little weight to that. I still do think there's value because you have the better team in Minnesota here, and they're plus money today, plus 105 on Caesars, about plus 100 everywhere else, or near even odds. So I'm going to lean Minnesota yet again. I don't think the Rangers are in the best spot here. I don't really trust Andrew Heaney either in terms of what he's done recently. 2.8 ERA over his last 5, but that's because he has 2 really good starts in there. And now he's had a pretty tough go. He's played some pretty good teams like Houston and New York in his last 2 starts. But overall, I do think that, looking at Simeon Woods-Richardson, only really has 1 throwaway bad start in his last 5. I kind of like his spot a little bit more than Texas. And then even though they're going up against a lefty, I like Minnesota's offense more, and they definitely have the better bullpen. So that's the direction I'm going to lean in here. You're also going to get a lot of breaking balls here. You're going to get a slider and a changeup as well from Andrew Heaney. Slider, Minnesota 4th in runs above average against that, 9th against the changeup. So decent pitch mix spot for Minnesota as well. So give me them. In terms of a total here, that's where it gets a little bit difficult. I'm going to lean towards the under because I don't think Texas is going to go out there and score a bunch of runs, and then hell, what if Minnesota does what they did yesterday, which is just barely scrape by and gets the win, right? I don't think it's a scrape by and win 5-3 or something. I think it's probably another like 3-2, 4-2 type game, which would be well under. All right, before we get into this Milwaukee and Cleveland game, if you guys made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment 23 because you made it 23 minutes in, and I do appreciate everyone that does do that. And I know some people, I always make the joke of like, that means someone's not skipping around, and then we get comments every time being like, not gonna lie, dude, I skipped around, don't watch every single second, but heard this part. So you know what? Shout out to even you for being honest, but this usually means that most people are watching this, at least skipping some parts, but watching consistently, getting through, and that's what really keeps me going. Like, I jump out of bed still in the morning morning because I know that there's a huge community here that we're building, and it's a real community. I mean, I'm transparent. You guys are transparent. I'm a human. You guys know I'm human. I'm not a robot giving picks at 89% rate. You know what I mean? So all that being said, I like to see the 23s in the comp stuff. It doesn't really mean a lot. It seems simple to you probably, but to me, I'm like 23, 23, 23. I'm like, these are people and they're rocking with me. Like it's really awesome. But all right, before I start crying, let's get into this game. We got Milwaukee taking on Cleveland. Aaron Savale on the bump against Gavin Williams here. Now, Gavin Williams has actually been good at home this season, so do have some credit to give him. He's got a 2.6 ERA over his last 5 starts here. That's way different than his 4.4 on the season, but on the road this year, 0.84 whip, a 2.19 FIP, a batting average against of 167, so I'll give him a little bit of credit here. The problem is that this Milwaukee offense, I do think, is much better than the offense we have in Cleveland, at least where they're at right now, and we just saw Milwaukee take 2 of 3 against the Dodgers. Now, they didn't really get the Dodgers A lineup, right? They went up against Stone, Buehler, and then Flaherty, but they beat Flaherty, who's a stud yesterday. Myers looked okay as well. We liked the Dodgers to score some runs, and they did. We had them over 3.5. They scored 4, so we barely got by, you know what I mean? So I think this is a spot in which you're getting a good value play here for Milwaukee. Now, do I like Savale? Answer is yes. I've always liked Aaron Savale, but I feel like he's a pitcher that we keep trusting, and because he made us so much money last year, all of a sudden it's like, oh boy, like now all of a sudden we're trusting him a little too much, you know what I mean? But still, this Milwaukee offense is pretty damn good, and they're top 10 against fastballs in the last 30 days in terms of runs above average per 100 fastballs thrown, and Gavin Williams throws nearly 70% fastballs, so to me, it's a decent spot. He's also going to throw a ton of sliders. They don't hit that well, but then a decent amount of changeups as his third pitch, and Milwaukee hitting changeups better than anyone in the league. So I'm trusting this to be an offensive day for Milwaukee. I'm finally not putting all my eggs in Aaron Savale's basket. So I like Milwaukee. I like the over as well, because even if Cleveland, their bats do kind of come alive, different than what they have been recently, and even recently, you go recent, right, against Chicago, and then the last game they had against the Twins, or second to last game against the Twins, they scored a decent amount of runs. So maybe Cleveland's bats are coming back, right? One of the better offenses a month or maybe 2 months ago. Maybe they're coming back. So that's another reason why I like the over. If I like the bats in Milwaukee, I'll say Aaron Savale probably doesn't shut down Cleveland. So I'll lean towards the over 8 here. All right, Houston taking on the White Sox, and man, Garrett Crochet's stock has just, I don't want to say that his stock has plummeted, but he's not even getting the odds respected anymore because this team is so bad, and he doesn't even seem to be pitching that deep into games, right? I think he's combined for 6 innings over his last 2 starts, which does not sound all that great if you are Garrett Crochet. Now, he is still one of the best young arms in the game, I get that, but there's a reason why we're looking at minus 192, right? So to me, this is probably an easy look at Houston to some degree. Now, I've seen 7.5 out there in terms of a total. I don't mind taking a peek at 7.5 if you can get it. 8's fine, but like you have the push potential, right? I think the Astros could put up a decent amount of runs, especially late in this game. And then even considering, the White Sox here, it's like I've kind of ragged on Spencer Arrieta Spaghetti all year long, you know what I mean? So maybe there's some runs that come in. I wouldn't put my life savings on it, but if you're telling me we can't get to a 5-3 game, Houston wins, come on now. I think that could easily be the case. And even if, even if it isn't, it's like, well, you did have a pitcher on the mound in Arrieta that if there's a team of the White Sox, pitcher the White Sox can hit, it's probably him. Like, I'm not putting all that weight into what he's done recently. He's been pitching really well, but a guy like him, I think is due for a little bit of regression. Now, it's still the White Sox, so take that, all that information and take that take with a little bit of a grain of salt, because it's the freaking White Sox. Bottom, 2, no matter what hand they're facing, no matter what, style pitcher they're facing in the league when it comes to offense. And no matter what time frame you're looking at, like, they're pretty damn bad. So that's all worth considering, I guess. But to me, Houston, maybe a money line like parlay piece here with Houston as well. Maybe you can go Philly and Houston, Philly team total over, Houston money line, that type of thing, something like that. So give me the over if you can get it at 7.5. I don't like 8 as much because I think it could land on 8, but I like over 7.5 as well as Houston on the money line. But it'd have to be in some sort of parlay, obviously, with those odds. All right, we got St. Louis taking on the Dodgers here. Like I just mentioned, the Dodgers end up losing that series against Milwaukee. Today on the mound for St. Louis is going to be Miles Mikolas going up against, I want to say it's Robelski. I actually saw Glasnow's name at one point, but don't see that anymore. So we're going to take this as it's Justin Robelski on the mound, who's 0-1 in the season with a 4.05 ERA. Overall, Miles Mikolas, not all that much better, right? And Robelski is really, really bad against lefties. There's a decent amount of lefties though in this lineup. You have Burleson, Donovan, Nootbaar, Gorman, and Scott in the lineup for St. Louis. No one that I'm like overly afraid of, right? It's not like it's Contreras or Arenado, that type of thing. But I do think with that pitcher being, on the mound, with Dodgers having to go from Milwaukee to St. Louis, not like it's a crazy trip, but they didn't have any time off. You're getting plus money for the home team in what I think could be an even pitching matchup. I'm going to lean towards St. Louis. Do I love it? No, but do I think it's the side that, I ultimately would get to with a gun to my head? Yes. Now, I don't mind the over either. This is still a very good Dodgers offense, and you could even make the argument today, and I wouldn't argue that Dodgers losing 2 in a row, minus 130 could be the spot to slam dunk it, right? I just don't trust Robelski all that much. But again, the Dodgers, if their offense is on, it really doesn't matter who's pitching in some games. Have we seen that lately? I wouldn't say necessarily, right? Like in that Milwaukee series, 2 last games, they end up scoring 4, so that's a little bit more worrisome. But to me, for the plus money, I like St. Louis. If you like the safer play, I don't think it's as valued. I think there's more risk than there is reward. I don't mind taking the Dodgers here at a shot at minus 130. But again, I think this is more of a 50-50 game, so the fact that we're getting plus 114 for St. Louis, that kind of makes me get to that spot. So trusting Miles Mikolas can be kind of scary, but I don't mind that. I don't mind the over again either, just because both these pitchers could, have an inning or two of like, whoops, baseball leads to overs. All right, we're in Colorado here, taking on the Dodgers. Waldron on the mound for Seattle, San Diego, going up against Cal Quantrill. This is a spot in which you're getting some serious juice on the San Diego side of things, but not as much as I would have thought. You know what I mean? Like minus 165, still very juicy, but for a team that's won 9 of their last 10, minus 165 seems like it could be in the cards. Now, maybe this is a spot in which you look at their team total over. It's probably going to be super high. I think it's at like 5.5 because you're in Colorado, but, account for one more run. Maybe that's the move. I don't mind San Diego here in this spot. I think that they can crush this team. But again, like, the fact that these odds are where they are kind of smells like a trap, but maybe we're just walking right into the trap here. So I like San Diego. I like the over, but I'd rather San Diego's team total over. Not that Matt Waldron is the guy type of thing, but I don't think Colorado's going to have the easiest time hitting him, especially in elevation like this. So, and Colorado's bullpen can always allow 10 runs, like from 7, 8, 9. You know what I mean? So one of the worst bullpens in the league, if not the. So I like San Diego here, if you can get them at a decent price. I don't mind them first 5 run line. That may be a better move. Now you are bringing into the fact that, you're trusting Waldron, which if that pitch isn't working, right, the knuckle, then it's going to be kind of, I guess, a little bit worrisome. But overall, like, you look at this from the first 5 run line, you're telling me you're not getting the better team for dice. Yeah, minus 102 on FanDuel. All I have to do is win the first 5. That's a pretty good price tag for the far better offense. So maybe that's the way we play it. But yeah, give me San Diego some way, shape, or form. And then I don't mind the over, but I like their team total over probably a little bit more. Angels taking on the Braves to close us out here. Soriano on the mound going up against Schwellenbach. Right now, the Angels lost 6 of their last 10. They got swept by Toronto. Atlanta won 3 of 4 against San Francisco, so good for them. Schwellenbach, like I said, on the mound going up against Soriano. Clear pitching advantage here for the Braves. I'd also say a pretty decent batting advantage, even though they scored 0 runs. And then the definite bullpen advantage. So this is a Braves spot for me. Minus 140 seems like it's right around in the right price tag, so I'm not even all that upset about it either. So I like the Braves. In terms of a total, I don't mind an under because even like I said, the Braves offense looks a little bit better. They did score 0 runs yesterday, but this Angels offense doesn't scare me really one bit. So this could easily be a 4-3 game, but don't mind like a first 5 under either, or an Angels team total under for the full game. Just kind of saying, hey, let's back the Braves, but not worry about their offense. So there's ways you can kind of take Atlanta without having to take Atlanta and bet on their offense. And that may be something we do. So keep an eye on that pinned comment. But guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you guys did enjoy it, if you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you guys go and join the Survivor pool for the fantasy football, or excuse me, the the Survivor contest that we have going on. It's not fantasy. It's picking a team each and every week. Super, super excited about this one. We just kind of quiet dropped it last night. Go get in while you still can. You can enter up to 5 times, so $50 if you want to, and then you have 5 chances. You can pick 5 different teams each week. But guys, yeah, go ahead and check it out. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this week. But that's going to wrap it up. Like I said, hope you guys did enjoy. I'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.